Okay, take two. Here we go. One, two, three, and go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Moonrunner City. I'm Chris. Here we go. Today we're going to be commentating on Mission Impossible 2. Tom Cruise in 2000 comes out with Mission Impossible 2, the sequel to Mission Impossible. This time, it seems like he's fully in control. He had a producer credit on the first one. He has another producer credit on this one. This time, it seems like he's basically in charge so that he could just throw himself from rocks and buildings and whatnot. He's doing his Tom Cruise thing in full force. This might be the first time that I can remember of him really going for all his own stunts thing, or at least it being like pushed hardcore in the media and in the lead up to the films before they come out, where there's always like talk about him doing his own stunt for this, for that. This one, I think, Mission Impossible 2, I think might be like the first one, and we'll get there to the stunts when they pop up. So here we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and go into it. I'm gonna be watching this on DVD, and you guys could watch it wherever. I believe right now it's playing on Amazon. And here we go. We're gonna go straight into it. You guys can press play now. All right. So boom, the DVD, old school DVD I have here. I think I have the original DVD from 2000. So opening this up was pretty nostalgic because I forgot how good this DVD package was for Paramount. It's pretty basic, your pretty basic plastic DVD case, but the inside had a couple pamphlets that were really cool and had some really informative information just about the movie. And since it's a Paramount movie, it's got this Paramount Pictures pamphlet that has like about 5 to 6 pages of just their library at the time that was on DVD. So you could just go through this and just go through their library and check out what you want to get on their DVD. It was really cool. And then as far as Mission Impossible goes, because that's what we're watching today, the Mission Impossible pamphlet also has some pretty good information on the inside. It just basically has all the information about the special features and what some of the like terminology means in the back. It tells you that, when the DVD menu appears, it'll say launch mission and mission database and index and languages. And in this pamphlet here shows you what those terms obviously mean. Launch mission is to play movie, mission database is your special features, and languages is your audio setup, and index is your scene selections or your chapter selections. And in the back, it also has your chapter selections laid out for you, so you could just check out uh, the chapter selections in the back. Chapter selections, I don't know if people know, they're kind of a thing of the past these days, where on the DVDs and the menu and on the little pamphlet, sometimes that they would have on the inside, it would be numbered and they'd be named. And sometimes the name were quite clever. So that's the DVD box there for you. So straight into the movie here, we have Ethan Hunt, or so we think Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, talking to said scientist, Dimitri. Dimitri is on the run and he's trying to link up with Ethan Hunt. And he's got this special briefcase and he's got a virus in his system, and he's got the cure in the briefcase or something like that. Eh, you know, it's a Mission Impossible movie, so these things get convoluted. But this is actually the first time where I think the plot is pretty streamlined. It's pretty straightforward. You just have, these the MacGuffin. You have the cure and the virus that Ethan's got to go get. He's got to destroy one. One of them gets lost or ends up in the wrong hands, and then he's got to go get that. And then that's pretty much the movie. So it's not as convoluted as kind of some of the later Mission Impossible movies would get. Um, I'm hearing that the last Mission Impossible, at the time I'm recording this, Mission Impossible 8, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is coming out. So when you're listening to this in the future, just know that um, I think that's pretty cool that you're listening to this in the future, and that also, yeah, this movie's plot is not as crazy complicated as some of the later Mission Impossible movies. This movie has a lot of the standard kind of tropes and hallmarks of the Mission Impossible movies. Like I said, you have the black bag, the MacGuffin that Ethan's chasing after. Tom Cruise has got to go running. You have the masks, which is actually going to pop up soon here in this scene. And then you have what is those here do I have written down? Oh, the heists. Um, there's always kind of like a heisty aspect to the Mission Impossible movies, where in retrieving said MacGuffin, Tom Cruise is kind of got to develop the crazy mission or Mission Impossible plan in order to get the device or MacGuffin or suitcase or black box or disc or rabbit's foot or whatever. So now we have revealed our villain takes off the fake Ethan Hunt masks and reveals himself. Gray Scott is playing our villain in this movie. He's got a couple side henchmen with him. And so the first time we see the Mission Impossible mask thing get portrayed right away. They use that a couple times in this movie. And you would think that after seeing this, they would learn their lesson on maybe on using the mask reveal thing a little sparingly, maybe not use it too many times in one movie. But as we go forward with the Mission Impossible movies, they go ham with the mask reveal, the rubber masks. It is kind of cool sometimes, but sometimes it also gets a little like hammy the way we're like you already expect the guy to like just kind of roll down his collar and just pull down the rubber mask. In some films, in some scenes, it's done pretty well though. We'll kind of go when we'll go through this. We'll go through some points where I think the mask reveal is done well. And then here we go. We got Tom Cruise on the side of a mountain, and here we go. This is Tom Cruise doing Tom Cruise craziness. He's hanging, rock climbing, free soloing. Before free solo, there was Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2. And this was like the big stunt that was heavily promoted along with the film before the release of the film, that Tom Cruise was really doing this crazy not obviously he's tethered and they digitally remove the wires, but he's really up there and he could fall and slip and really hurt himself really bad. And yeah, this is pretty incredible right here. And like this shot where they pull back. And poor John Woo in the DVD supplements and the behind the scenes features, when he talks about Tom Cruise doing his stunts, you can see the guy had like a really stressful time watching him do these crazy like hanging, and he's like jump. It's not good enough that he's just rock climbing and there's a camera and helicopter there, and you know he's got to be acting and then all that stuff. But he does like this crucifixion pose here where he's hanging with his arms totally stretched out backwards, and he's jumping and making crazy leaps from one rock to the other. It's just really wild. And it's just really just to introduce Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible 2. And we get a pretty, what I think, bad music intro with this. They should have probably just played the Mission Impossible theme, but they play uh some really generic pop song. And right away, straight into it, the IMF, they find Tom Cruise and they give him his mission. It's always interesting the way IMF finds Tom Cruise and Ethan, or I'll call him Ethan from now on. It's always funny how IMF finds Ethan, and in this movie, it's also pretty funny the way they just shoot a rocket at him, and in the rocket is sunglasses, and this he's supposed to put the sunglasses on, and then in the sunglasses they're like Google glasses, and then he's able to see a recording, a visual and audio recording of said mission. I mean, the graphics on the glasses here are pretty top notch. I mean, if Meta and those Google Apple goggle things, if they had this, that'd be really cool. But this is 2000, doesn't even exist. But for at the time, I mean, this is the start of Mission Impossible gadgets, right? And the Mission Impossible gadgets, they vary between plausible and then also batshit crazy. So you have the sunglasses there, the Google sunglasses, which back then those things seemed pretty plausible. And here we are 20 years later, we got them. We got a lot of variations of them, different companies trying to make them. And so yeah, the gadget like that is very plausible and believable to when you see pop up. You're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to see that like really in play. Like I could see like a secret agent, force having that sort of thing. But there's some gadgets that are not so plausible. So I don't think in this movie though we do see too many different gadgets. I think John Woo kind of keeps it very just basic with guns and car chases and motorcycle chases. We don't get too many different gadgets, although we get, like I said, a couple uses of the masks and things like that. So we'll get to that later on in the movie. But for right now, here we are. We're back in, not we're back, but Ethan Hunt is on the hunt. He's on the move. He's in Spain. And right away, this is our intro to Thandie Newton. And she's going to be Ethan. She plays the love interest here. The music is done by Hans Zimmer, the famous Hans Zimmer. And I don't think this is like one of his best pieces, really. This part is good. This little Spanish theme here. I think he's good at this type of stuff. But the rest of the film is really not that memorable. It's kind of cheesy in a lot of spots. It's really on the nose. That might just be kind of the way John Woo maybe implemented it or just kind of wanted it. It does feel very John Woo like the music cues and all this stuff like the editing like here, which I like this part. I think the love at first sight thing is complete bullshit, but I like the way they did it where he shot in high speed slow mo, and then you have the dancer in super slow mo, kind of in the foreground, and every time she swooshes past the camera, we have a jump cut to either or the characters kind of staring at each other, and it's kind of a nice way to like make these two people connected in a room, and that and make it really like significant that this is a moment that's happening between these two people. I like the way that was done in slow mo. But their whole relationship and love story in this movie really, you gotta really have patience with some of it. I mean, yeah, it's a summer movie, and there's gotta be a love story to keep a big audience involved. You know, it just can't be Ethan. Ethan Hunt's gotta have a reason to be emotionally attached to a mission too in these movies, with either a friend or a love interest. It's not always just about the MacGuffin or the black bag or whatever he's chasing. He's always doing it for the people in the story. And so in this one, he's got the love interest, which we didn't have really in Mission Impossible 1. But here we have a really, really hammy love story. And you could tell, you could tell right here in this scene where they're talking, and she's stealing some jewels here. And I believe the way this scene is supposed to be is she's stealing jewels. Tom Cruise is recruiting her for one of his missions. He's not really sure what it is yet, but he's recruiting her. So in the recruitment process, he's going to let her steal the item, let her get caught, and then from there, it doesn't seem like he has much of a plan, because she says no and then leaves, and then he's just like, "Oh man, I guess I gotta go chase her down again." So Ethan's, um, not very convincing here. He's just kind of there, and I don't blame him. So yeah, the love story here is really hammy. It's just they fall in love so fast, and the dialogue is just very, very, like, this movie feels like it wanted to be made 5 years earlier. The way this love story is, the way some of the action beats are, definitely, this movie definitely kind of suffered from being released after The Matrix, because The Matrix was inspired by John Woo's slow-mo style, or at least some of John Woo's slow-mo style. A lot of the action, um, Hong Kong movies of the time use that kind of style. Slow-mo, crazy gunfight action scenes. And so Matrix comes out, makes a big, big, big impact. Everything now is starting to be in slow motion, action scenes in slow motion, a lot of gunfire, a lot of gunplay, gung fu, which, if you guys want to see gun fu really on display, check out Equilibrium with Christian Bale. That's a good movie and a fine display of what I'm talking about. Gun fu, where it's just the character is just really just doing things with the guns that they shouldn't be doing. Kind of things that John Wick would do, but mm, even more outrageous. I'll just say that. Go look up parts from Equilibrium. You'll see what I'm talking about. So yeah, here I don't understand his plan here. I his was to watch her. I guess he can't let her steal the item because that would be bad. But he wants to see if she's capable of infiltrating that type of security. But then he just kind of like leaves her and lets her kind of get away. And it leads off to like him chasing her down. They have this kind of chasing, but still, um, the way she just leaves here, it kind of leaves him cold. It's kind of like, okay, well, damn, Ethan, you could have had a better plan. You could be better at persuading. We got a nice product placement here with this Audi. Some of the dialogue between them two is okay. Um, I believe Robert Town is back. He had some credit on Mission Impossible 1, and I believe he has sole credit on this one. There were some other drafts of the script written before he came along. I believe when he came along, the notoriously it's the story is that when he came on board, the action scenes and what John Woo and Tom Cruise kind of wanted to do was kind of already set up and in play, and he kind of had to just like write around that. And so that was his basic challenge, to write these scenes out around said action scenes. So take Tom Cruise from the side of a mountain to, he's got to break into a building and he wants to jump off the helicopter down the shaft, and then a gunfight, and then jump out the building with parachute and go from there. And then we go from there to Tom likes motorcycles, so we're going to have a motorcycle chase. Kind of like that. So he has to write and fill all this other stuff in a rush. And so he probably had to write around and write into this little chase scene. So that's why maybe that scene at the beginning feels a little like these two things, the night scene and this maybe should have happened around the same time. Which it looks like they wanted it to, because it's the day after and she's still wearing the same clothes, same outfit. So I don't know. But this chase scene is pretty short, but really good. I mean, all the stunts here were like real, look like they're really done in camera. There's no CGI here. The spinning and slamming into each other on a really tight, narrow road on the side of a mountain. And I mean, this scene is kind of bullshit. Not this scene, but this part right here with he hits her so that she avoids going off, and then they spin out and then just keep spinning, and then in the spin we get a little slow motion again and them staring at each other, and then this is the moment supposedly this where they're falling in love as they spin off into oblivion and crash off the mountain. And her car goes off. She flies out, hanging on by the door, and he jumps out without any hesitation and grabs her. That stunt is pretty crazy. And then they just sit in the car, and then they just sit there. And then they're just like, we love each other now. And she's like, I love you. And he's like, I love you too. I'm a spy. I'm not supposed to fall in love with you. I'm supposed to be recruiting you, but I love you so much. And then that's it. And then throughout the whole movie, we kind of just are like, you're kind of just mad at Tom. You're kind of just mad at Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, for being like just overly in love with this lady so quick, and it being such a crutch for the movie. You're just like, man, didn't want this to be what Mission Impossible 2 was supposed to be. But there you have it. I mean, they went down the route of the love story, and this is what we get. This is the one we get for this installment. Sorry, I'm just checking just making sure we're still recording there, because that'd be a nightmare. So this scene here is this whole like part where they're in Spain and they're meeting up, and the way they fall in love so quickly. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of some 80s movies. Like Revenge, No Way Out, stuff like that, where there's like this, hard, steamy passion. But this is a PG-13 movie, so you really can't have that kind of stuff. And it's Tom Cruise. I don't think you've ever really, he's not really down for that kind of like more edgy, steamy adult love scene. And also, this is the 2000s, and this is 2000, and we're kind of we've kind of phased out of those kind of crazy, steamy, obligatory love scenes in movies where the actors would just be like slobbering all over each other, and you know you would have to see that they were obviously naked, and it's just but hey, them's the times. Sometimes it'd be cool to have it back, but like I said in the last podcast, if you're watching it when it's a PG-13 movie like this and you're with family and they start swapping spit, it's it's get a drink time while you have a drink in your hand. So we'll just say that. Yeah, like I said, the whole thing. These love stories and these type of movies always feel like kind of shoehorned in. Kind of like in certain Bond movies. Sometimes it's just like it just feels like they're really just shoehorned in like a steamy romance, just for the sake of appealing to the younger adult market, or like the teenage crowd. So they gotta put in like the hot love scene or the hot love story. So that's fine. But this one just feels really hammy and just really kind of corny. And then again, like I said, some of the music cues are just really on the nose and on point, and it's just kind of oof. And again, it's Hans Zimmer, so you would think like it'd be a little better, but eh. You get some of the watching it now after watching a lot of Hans Zimmer movies. You could see like a lot of the Hans Zimmer hallmarks and tropes, the guitar and the ladies, the single lady singing and the choir singing. So we get a lot of that. This is the same. He does Gladiator this year. I mean, he's Hans Zimmer still. And then he just kind of kept doing stuff after this too. Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight, man, he does Man of Steel. He's doing Dune. The guy just keeps going. Anthony, we have the the next line of Ethan Hunt's handlers, his kind of boss that kind of gives him the assignment. And in this movie, it's Anthony Hopkins. And throughout the Mission Impossible movies, we'll get other incarnations of this kind of character. It'll be more, or not more, but other established A-list actors of a kind of elderly age that'll be giving Ethan his missions, which always helps bring some gravitas to these Mission Impossible movies. To see like a kind of a heavy actor alongside Ethan. That was one of the things of the first Mission Impossible movies, is that it kind of starts off as a ensemble piece somewhat, where Ethan's a part of the team, and that was kind of the whole point of the original show back in the 60s, the Mission Impossible TV show. And the TV show was a team, and in that team, there was these different characters, and I don't think Ethan Hunt was an actual character in those older um, shows. I believe Jim Phelps was, which is why I think a lot of people, when the first Mission Impossible movie came out, were a little upset that Jim Phelps was turned into the bad guy and then killed at the end. that's kind of funny. I think that even back then, the heroes to some people's beloved shows were being turned into bad guys and killed off for a newer, younger, hotter character. So moving on, we have the Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt. He's figuring out what the mission is. Ambrose or Dougray Scott, played by Dougray Scott, is on the run, and he's got the MacGuffin. He's got the Chimera, and Ethan's got to go get it. And he's finding out that Sandy Newton, his girlfriend, his new girlfriend, that he's not supposed to be getting in a relationship with, not professional Ethan. He's got to use her to get with the bad guy to get information. So right away, you reap what you sow, Ethan. And Anthony Hopkins is like, hey man, them's the rules. You gotta do what you gotta do. Nobody told you to go fall in love with a skirt. I'm just kidding. So he falls in. I mean, a spy. Even spies gotta fall in love, right? Whatever. So it makes for sort of an interesting dilemma of this sort of. I mean, John Woo says it's a love triangle, but not really because Sandy Newton is not at all interested in Dougray Scott's character, and Ethan Hunt is clearly after going after to put Dougray Scott down. It's not like there's like this dilemma of Ethan and Dougray Scott are buddies, and he doesn't know if he should say something or do something about it. And Sandy Newton as well. She's not um, undecided on which male character she should go for. So it's not really a love triangle. It's just more of a. I guess the mission is supposed to be played as there's a love triangle to be played with, and that they're using Ambrose's sort of like jealousy or ego, which is good. I mean, that's what Mission Impossible movies do. They use those kind of mind tricks against the villain and kind of play little games like that in order to kind of get the thing that they're after. So I think that's good. I think that's in keeping with the Mission Impossible stories. Not the best rendition of that sort of thing in this film, but nevertheless, they tried. It's definitely a head game. They're definitely playing head games. The old switcheroo. And there's a nice human dilemma. And we have Tom Cruise. He's breaking it down to Thandie. This is, I think, their strongest scene together, where he's got to tell her that Sean Ambrose is doing some bad stuff, and she's had a previous relationship with him, so she's got to go back to him and act like she wants to get back with him or she needs his help or whatever, just to go there, get some information, and then I guess Ethan's supposed to go and bring him down. It's not really excited what he's supposed to do afterwards. Sorry. But it's a strong scene between these two. And it's a strong scene because, like I said, the chemistry between Tom Cruise and Thandie Newton here in this film is a little wishy-washy. And so in this scene right here is like a crutch of the relationship. You have to be able to believe this part. So you could tell like they really worked hard on this scene. And again, it's sort of wishy-washy, but there's some good moments. At the end where he tells her like, "Then feel better." It's You don't really they understood that, really don't need to say much. You kinda get what's going on. And both of the characters should be able to get what's going on. We don't really need to get a whole explanation of, like, "I love you," and da 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 da. So, you're glad that they did that, because if they did, and then this music cue dropped in, it'd be like, "Oh, man." Like, I just wanna see Tom Cruise just jump off of something. Just wanna see him run. Why does he gotta argue with his girlfriend? Why does Tom Cruise with long hair gotta argue with his girlfriend? Tom Cruise, like I said here, he's having a Tom Cruise hasn't done anything in a while since this movie came. Oh no, maybe he has, but I don't think he has really took the lead on a tentpole movie like this. And then Mission Impossible, like I said, or like everybody knows, is Tom Cruise, and this is when it becomes like his baby. And he really kind of takes it out there, and this is the fifth birthday party for Mission Impossible, and we're doing things. You do things big for the fifth birthday party. You get the jumpy thing and all that stuff. Get the friends to come over. So speaking of friends, this is where we start to get Ethan assemble the team, and the team is we're gonna get Vin Raines back. We're gonna get some other dude who probably ends up being Benji. Let's face it, poor guy, that original actor. But yeah. Also, we don't assemble a team yet. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay, so we're assembling the team, and then at the same time, we're getting her linking up with Ambrose. So he's Ethan's getting Luther Steckel and uh, Billy, and they're gonna go meet Ethan in the outback, and they're gonna go chase down Thandie Newton. They're gonna go get her. And Luther's back. He's like the only person besides Ethan Hunt from the first one that comes back. And he's the only person from the first one that ever comes back, I believe. He's the only person that I think is in every single other Mission Impossible movies. Maybe he's not in the fourth or fifth one. There's one that he's like barely in. There's a few that he's barely in. Like he barely has a story. But in this one, he has a good storyline. Decent. He's always just kind of like side tech guy. But as the films go on, he becomes Ethan's friend and becomes like a major part of the Mission Impossible team and franchise. What's unfortunate about the Mission Impossible movies is how whenever the team gets assembled, aside from Luther, there's always a bunch of different guys until we run into Simon Pegg, what's his name, Benji's character, or Simon Pegg's character, Benji, who he starts to become a recurring character. He pops up in part 4, I believe, or maybe part 3. Who knows? I mean, I guess I'm not gonna go clicking away and finding out right now, but because I just have Mission Impossible 2 stuff popped up, so I'll save you guys the clicking. But yeah, Benji pops up in 3 or 4. I'm not sure. And we lose Billy. We lose the actor William Mapother, who plays Billy Walls. Sorry, Billy, but he's in this and he does okay. He's not very memorable, but he doesn't really need to be. He's just third team guy, helicopter pilot, kind of like what's his face in the A Team. Was it his name? The Face. So yeah, that's very. So we got Thandie Newton. All right, so we got her meeting up with Ambrose. Very menacing, and they're watching creepily. Tom Cruise has got major FOMO. He's got her. She's making out with it. She's got to kiss him. All the guys are laughing about it, and he's got to just be like, so awkward. But Ethan's gonna keep it profesh now. They should just never have gotten with her. You just can't be hooking up with your employees when you're a super spy, Ethan. You can't do it. You got to keep your girlfriend's like a doctor, and you got to keep your life in the dark, like you did in the third one, so that she could get kidnapped and find out that you're a spy, and then we could, start the story all over again. But anyway, I'm gonna probably complain about the love story a couple more times, but that's because some of the scenes that are played out in this movie just really take it and just drag it the fuck on. I mean, like the first 45 minutes of this movie really just doesn't do too much. I mean, where are we at right now? So far we've had a little small car chase where the cars kind of did some impressive spinning and bouncing around. That was not bad. It was pretty hair raising stuff. Nothing to really call summer blockbuster worthy, but I mean it definitely for like an in between action beat. Okay, so we got that, and then we get Tom Cruise on the side of the mountain. Okay, and then what else after that? So we're 40 minutes in, and we just still just quiet love story. Which, okay, 40 minutes in is not bad. You do want to build up. You do want to establish things. You don't want to just like throw in a lot of stuff. But I don't think we've had one like really good action scene here in the Mission Impossible movie. We can't count that rock climbing scene an action beat. I mean, it's an intro scene. A very well shot, well done, well stunted and acted by Tom Cruise intro scene, but nevertheless, it's an intro scene. And we really doesn't do too much anything for the plot of the story, just to intro Tom Cruise. I mean, maybe if he would have been like, had to get chased on the side of the mountain after that and like rock climb down. But, budgets. We can only do so much. Watching a lot of these scenes, you could tell that there were, John Woo's doing the best that he can with what he got. I mean, the cinematography looks okay. This looks really good. Tom Cruise is making sure, as producer, that he's looking really good on camera, especially when he's next to Thandie Newton. You just have like this obvious, like lighting, like like golden hour lighting on his face when he's around Thandie. What's her name in the movie? Oh, Naya, Miss Naya Hall. That's right. And then this is Ambrose with his side henchman Hugh Stamp, played by Richard Roxburgh, and their relationship is a weird one because as a henchman, I guess you got to take some shit, but you should be able to always maybe hold one over the boss. Like as a good henchman, like a good henchman should probably be a little bit more intimidating than like the boss, the big boss. Like he just should just be like bigger or just have like, just something about him that's just like, oh shit, like can't mess with the boss because this guy's there. Whereas like here it feels like Hugh is just almost like a secretary, like an assistant. Mm. And then here, we gotta like see that Sean's a bad guy. He's not above hurting or injuring one of his co-henchmen. He cuts the guy's finger off. Which you would think, I mean, from a business standpoint, not a good move to cut off one of your henchmen's pinky finger off. He's gonna need his hands. You got that guy around so that he could use his hands, and you just maim his finger. They never show like how bad he actually cuts his finger, but I mean, some parts right here, like when he grabs it, it looks like his whole half of the finger is like in there. Now, when he actually closes the thing, it doesn't look like he's getting too much. It looks like maybe he's just grazing it, but still, I mean, a tip of the finger is a tip of the finger. It's not cool. I have gotten cuts on my finger, and it's definitely awkward to do anything with your hands afterwards. So, yeah, Ambrose is kind of a dick boss. Okay, so here is the. This is basically where the mission is supposed to like stop. You know, homegirl's Naya. She's supposed to get like the microfilm or the SD card, and then give it to Ethan, and then she's supposed to get out of there. And but reasons. Well, okay, Sean's not stupid, so he gets, he gets the gist of what's going on, and so is his henchman. He knows that like she just didn't pop in out of nowhere and just automatically like is in love with him again. So the bad guys are not stupid, and they're on to Ethan and the plan. So that all tracks. That all makes sense. And like I said here, like too bad for Billy not popping back up in any other movies because I think he does a good job and the actor does a good job with the character. Billy, he's like obviously like the comedic kind of guy, not as like comedic as a Simon Pegg character becomes, but he's definitely the funny man. And but he also like shows like why he's there. You know, he's not just there for laughs or to be goofy or kind of like be bumbling. You could see that he's got clear skills in certain things. He's clearly a field agent. He's able to do something like this, and like he dresses up in the outfit and hands Sandy the pamphlet with the thing in it, and then he's a pilot. He could like pilot the helicopter in like tight quarters, and we'll get to it later, but he's able to make quick decisions for the team and good decisions for the team. So he does stuff, and he complements the team very well. So it's a shame that like the character never pops back up again. But I guess that's kind of why we get Simon Pegg, um, Benji, who plays a little bit kind of the same role. It kind of plays a little bit of both of Ving Rhames' character and Billy's character, where he's well, no, actually, he just kind of just plays the comic relief tech guy, and then slowly becomes a part of the team, which is, I guess, the nice part about Benji's character and Simon Pegg's uh, arc in those movies. Watching him like kind of become a team member and a field agent and all that stuff. Speaking of field agents, we got here in the movie Ethan watching Ambrose make the deal and get the SD card, the memory card from Brendan Gleeson. Plays John C. McCloy. So they're gonna follow Brendan Gleeson, and they're gonna follow Ambrose, and they're gonna save the fucking day. And so far, so good. Sandy's doing her thing. She's doing what she was brought in there for. She's stealing stuff, sleight of hand stuff. But I mean, Sean Ambrose is an IMF agent, and he's hip to all this stuff. So he's not fooled one bit. He's like, I'm on to you guys. You're not fooling me, son. But then she pulls this little trick here and she stifles him. You got Tom Cruise is just obviously just like he's not watching the racetrack. He's just like in like with binoculars, facing the crowd, obviously looking towards the direction of Naya and Sean Ambrose, which is pretty funny. So yeah, so yeah, the whole plan relies on Naya, kind of the thief, the master thief Naya, to kind of fool the IMF agent and then get you know the the memory card back to Ethan, which is kind of like ridiculous that they would even trust her, and then they would even trust that she would be able to pull it off because she ends up not being able to. And so again, Ethan didn't really think this one through. Mission impossible becomes mission failed. Mission retrievable. That's what these movies should be called. Because let's face it, a lot of the times the missions usually end up kind of going awry. But I mean, I guess that's the point. You wouldn't have a movie. So, yeah. So right now we got homeboy getting getting his finger all messed up again because, like I said, his boss is a dick and was like, "You're my henchman. You need your hands. I'm gonna maim you." Not good for business, buddy. Not good for business. And then again, like I said, he's not stupid, but he's definitely horny because he takes in Naya just because he wants to get his rocks off, and he puts himself in the position that Ethan is at least able to, you know, get the drop on him, find out where he is, and all that stuff. So that's all good for Ethan, but for the bad guy's sake, kind of dumb to, again, like I said, why does anybody trust her? Ving Rhames, I mean, Luther's character is always the voice of reason. He's the only one that is like, what's going on here? Why is Billy being so creepy about watching all this, and why is Ethan being ridiculous? Why are we trusting Naya? Tom is like, because I love her. We stared at each other across a dance hall in Spain once. And then I saved her life in a car accident. That was cool. Which it was cool, but like I said, I mean, they were just really going for like old style 80s. It just feels very like a little cheese the way they fall in love so quick. It's just so bad. And then he's a spy and they gotta just like rely on her to do all this shit. Meanwhile, she's a thief. Like, her job is to like deceive people. I mean, what would have been cool is like if she kind of stuck to what she's like known to do and kind of threw monkey wrench in the whole thing, and she ends up going rogue and stealing something or lying to somebody about something and messes up the plan that way. But no, instead we get like the kind of like obligatory. She gets founded out by the bad guy, and so she just becomes hostage, hostage lady that Ethan's got to go get. Ethan's like, you better get out of there, cause I'm gonna come and get you. You get out of there. And nobody sees Ethan again. These guys are not like just normal henchmen. They're supposed to be like, ex IMF agents gone rogue, mercenaries. That Sean Ambrose, second to Ethan Hunt, right? In the beginning, Anthony Hopkins tells Ethan Hunt, I couldn't find you, so I threw a mask of your face on Ambrose because he's the second best and he was able to do the job. That guy goes and puts together his team, and that team is lurking around, and they're supposed to not catch on to this whole thing. But, Mission Impossible movie. It's a it's a movie. It's a movie. It's a movie. There's a reason why this one is kind of the bad apple of the Mission Impossible bunch. And it's probably because of stuff like that. And it's probably because of stuff like this. Like I said, here we are. If I don't cut around this, an hour into the movie, and we still got nothing. We got nothing, guys. Tom Cruise jumped off the side of a cliff once, slid off, almost died, maybe twice, and then that's it. I mean, oh, we got a little bit of sort of like Mission Impossible like head games going here. Like this is the closest we get right here, where they track down um Brendan Gleeson's character and kind of do a fake out here to get him to like confess. You know, he goes into like the wrong limo and they gas him and he wakes up somewhere else and the whole thing is a ruse to get him to confess, and then they just drop him off somewhere else and the whole thing was just made up. You know, that's very Mission Impossible, and that's very like the original series Mission Impossible, which is to kind of like make up a whole scenario that was fake to for the bad guy or you know whatever they were chasing after to really reveal itself. And so all this is very Mission Impossibly, and so it's good that we get it finally, and even in like the smallest way, but we still get it. And I think they pull it off okay. And it's cross cut with the scene of tension with Naya, almost like, or she does get caught, but she's trying to escape. And lo and behold, she can't slip past the IMF guards. Go figure. So, poor Naya. You can run, but you can't hide. This this film has a like a nice indisposable amount of bad guy villains that are just able to like kind of like lurk around and patrol the area. It's just an infinite amount of them. There's just an infinite amount of bad guys to chase Ethan, for Ethan to have to kill in order to get to Ambrose. It's great. That's also again very feels very John Wooey, and also just of the times for action movies where you know it was just like how many bad guys are there? Nobody knows. You know, it's just like and sometimes you could watch some of these action movies and you'd see like the same like this stuntman get killed like 5 times, which is hilarious. So yeah, here we have the fake out, and Tom Cruise is wearing a mask of a dead guy. By the way, don't know how he got that mask of the dead guy. Don't know how they make the masks. Just like some sort of like 3D printing, but a 3D printing of an image that they get from where sometimes, you know, like, you know, a 3D printer. I mean, whatever. I'm not gonna. I mean, this is the 2000s too, so they're not even thinking about like the way a 3D printer works, which is how later on we see how the way the masks are kind of made in these movies. It's kind of like a 3D, almost like a 3D model process. I wonder if there's ever a conscious effort in these Mission Impossible movies to make it when the Tom Cruise is wearing the mask, to make it that it's obviously still Tom Cruise behind the mask. Or is it that just like his facial features, i.e. his nose, just stands out so much or so recognizable that you could always like see it. You could always see that it's Tom Cruise. So sometimes you're also fooled. Is it the actor? and that's just pretending to be playing Tom Cruise playing the actor's character, or is it Tom Cruise wearing an actual makeup so that it looks like Tom Cruise, so that we're that the audience is in the know, so that we're kind of recognizing that, oh, okay, this is I wonder, because it happens a lot in other movies too, where sometimes you can almost see through the mask, you can almost see a Tom Cruisey performance, and that could just be down to they're just good that's what they do, they're actors. But it's interesting because like there were parts where like so here like you could obviously see this is supposed to be Ambrose wearing the mask. So this is where like the masks start getting a little crazy. So Ambrose is wearing the mask to trick Naya, and he's wearing the mask as Tom Cruise. And then later on, he'll reveal that he was playing Tom Cruise. But with this mask, I mean, it's obviously Tom Cruise just playing a bad guy version of himself being played by Dougray Scott. Whereas, like I said, in the other one, there were moments where you kind of got a glimpse of like, is that Tom Cruise's face, like nose behind there? Like, what's going on? Is that his eyes? The way his eyes are moving, it's very Tom Cruisey. You could it kind of felt that way in the first one also. So maybe it's just something that they implemented once in the first one, and something that Tom Cruise kind of carried over, because I think it's a cool thing to like sometimes be guessing of is it the actor playing the character playing another character playing the character, or is it just the character wearing the mask or makeup, movie makeup, looking like he's wearing the mask so he could look like he's wearing the mask to trick the person. If that makes any sense. And is this the first time we see the voice box changing thingy, where they're able to put that little bandage strip on their neck that changes their voice to sound like the person that they're imitating? I can't remember if that's done in the original Mr. Impossible. I don't think it is, because there are scenes. Yeah, I don't think it is, because in the end scene, Tom Cruise is wearing a mask and he doesn't say anything, and it's because he can't like give up that he's Tom Cruise yet behind the mask. See, like in that movie, there's a scene in that one, or a shot in that one, where it clearly looks like there's this rubber thing on an actor's face, and like it looks off, and it's supposed to be like letting the audience know that like this is not who it seems, but the bad guys don't know that yet, but you do, which is I think is fun. Anyway, I lost what I was talking about. Sorry. Tom Cruise wearing masks. I don't know. Moving on. I was super into the thought there, but sorry guys. I kind of lost it there. So what we got going on here is the heist, right? The Mission Impossible heist. So Tom has got to like break into a place to get a thing, and in order to get the thing, he's got to jump off a thing into a thing with no thing in a certain time limit before a thing closes or detaches or breaks so that he could get in safely. And so in this one, he's got to jump off a helicopter into a building, down a shaft before the vents close. And for some reason, he's got to like stop super close to the floor, kind of like in the first one, um, and then kind of go from there. But that's the stunt, and that's what they're gonna do. And so here we are. We get the. Is this the first time we get Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible jumping off of stuff? It might be. I don't know if in the first Mission Impossible, the action scenes are pretty like standard, like real basic. I mean, I don't think there's very many action set pieces, if at all, in the first Mission Impossible, except for aside from the last one on the train. It's the first Mission Impossible is like a spy thriller, and then here in this one, we have a very different Mission Impossible movie, a very different style. It goes in a very different direction. It's going in the direction of like not a hardcore action movie, but what a PG-13 version of a hardcore action movie would be like. This movie was, I think, heavily marketed to, like I said before, to younger audience in order to get some more butts in the seats. And so I guess they had the idea that doing that kind of like mature, slow espionage spy thriller like the first one is wouldn't really fly too well with like the kind of MTV TRL crowd of the era back then. And they were probably right. But you get this movie where here we are. Let's see where we're at here. We are at pressing buttons here. I'm getting there. 108. And Ethan just jumped through a building and did the cool stoppy thingy before the floor thing. And so the thing is got to come out the vents before they close, or else they're gonna get caught. And it does just in the nick of time. Very cool. And then Billy's got to get the fuck out of there with his excellent helicopter flying skills that nobody hears or sees. I like how Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt is wearing a G-Shock. Represent. Shout out to G-Shock. Or G-Shocks. It's a watch brand. I like watches. Okay. So, yeah, this is another staple of the Mission Impossible movies. That kind of Ethan breaking into a place nice and quietly against some sort of ticking clock. So we get a lot of these in the Mission Impossible movies. Made famous in the first one, where he breaks into the Langley CIA to get the knock list. And then in this one, here we got some of the same. It's got to be very quiet. There's no dialogue. There's no music. Very little sound. The scene is played very, very quiet. So yeah, this one, this heist doesn't seem definitely not as good as the first one. Definitely not as good as some of the other ones that we get. Really kind of has just like an okay shootout scene at the end, and then Ethan blows up a hole in the wall in the building and then jumps out. into a CGI landscape. But the jump was real, and we'll get there. We'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, so see right here, Billy, he's kind of like taking charge. He's got some authority. He's questioning Luther, like what's going on. We got to get. He really cares about Ethan and the mission and what they're doing, and he knows that Ethan cares about the girls, so he's invested, and he's not just being all jokey and goofy and fucking things up, and he's being a real guy. And I like that about his character. And Luther, he's back as the computer tech guy, and his character is just kind of, him and Ethan are just better friends. They get to just play off each other and have a good time. It feels like Tom Cruise needed a good somebody to bounce off of in these movies, and I think Vin Raines just offered just kind of like a nice, comfortable kind of atmosphere in these movies, and for Mr. Tom Cruise. So yeah, so we still got Tom just kind of walking around the building, getting stuff. We're watching the maps, seeing the little tracking devices, little bleeps where they're at in the building. One dot is going to get to another dot sooner or later. Ethan's checking the virus out. The virus is contained in like these needles that look like guns, which is pretty hilarious. But action movie. I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of plausible that something that would inject a fluid would be in something that would maybe look like, sort of have like a pistol sort of handle. But these things, you know, it literally has a pistol handle. Right there. It looks like the way he's like pointing it into his wrist. It looks like he's like holding like Han Solo's gun. Where like it would have been, if they wanted it to look like a pistol or a handgun, they could have at least styled it after like an air gun or something that's already like established. So like those are one of those gadgets that are just like a little like come on guys. Let's get back to the sunglasses. All right, so here we got the action scene. We got squibs going off. We got slow mo. A little bit of gun fu with like him spinning around and grabbing the guns, and the twisting and the turning and the ducking and the dodging. That's a little gun fooey, but not as like not as crazy as obviously the Matrix. But a lot of people were watching this at the time when this came out and kind of seeing it as ripping off the Matrix with these slow mo shootouts, and really it was the Matrix that like kind of ripped off John Woo's style with his kind of movies, like what is it, Police Story or A Better Tomorrow, I think it is. or just those movies in general. Just like I said, those those Hong Kong action cinema of the time, where there's like these balletic action scenes of people just like jumping and falling over and grabbing a gun and dropping another one and reloading. Here, so it's like here he's got to like jump for something, he misses, he's got to spin out of the way and get behind something, and there's squibs and sparks and everything's flying and going off in the background in slow motion, and maybe there's a dove somewhere. This is an office building, so we don't got doves, but in John Woo movies a dove is gonna pop up, son, so best believe there'll be a dove. I think actually a doves do pop up in this movie, and is very like just kind of out of nowhere and shoehorned in, kind of like this is John Woo movie. There's gonna be doves, damn it. That's kind of funny. Ambrose shitting on Tom Cruise and Ethan, both like a real like meta joke of just Tom Cruise always smiling. He's a good guy. He's gonna not try to look pissed off in public. Very professional. And so yeah, we get just bullets everywhere. Nobody's reloading. Bullets just the bullet holes and shots and impacts just create explosions, but never really hit anybody important. And guns always look cool in these movies, in these John Woo movies. Like Ambrose has got like a cool gun there. I can't really get a good look at it, but it looks like a Colt 45. Like it's two toned. The slide is black. Uh, the rest of the gun is kind of most of the gun is silver. It's got like a little bit of a black grip handle. So yeah, it's got that two tone black and silver look, which is something that John Woo had in Face Off. John Travolta's character carry around a Glock. I think a Glock that is silver and black. So I like, it's kind of cool that the villain has a standout kind of weapon, kind of a weapon that he uses that's very unique and of him and of his character. Black and white, he's definitely a bad guy, but he's hiding behind the good guy IMF mask. Literally, he was hiding behind Ethan Hunt's mask. It's like calls Naya like a monkey. It's kind of fucked up. I like the way they play Naya though in this. Like I said, even though the chemistry between her and Tom, oh my god, like look at the way they shoot Tom Cruise and her in the same scene together. It's just like they're like just competing to see who could be like the better looking, get the better beauty shot. It's kind of funny. A little vain too, but I mean when you're on camera and gonna be shown across the globe, I guess you want to look your best. But yeah, so I like how the way her character just has some agency to it. Um, she's still definitely the damsel in distress, unfortunately. But she's ballsy. She talks back, but she also stopped beating people up. You know, Sandy Newton weighs like 90 pounds, and that girl is not punching anybody without breaking her entire wrist. And so she doesn't. So we don't have to suffer watching a 90-pound girl try to beat up somebody in these action movies. Which I applaud when they try to do it and they pull it off, but a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, in some movies, especially recently, lately, yeah, like we're gonna get ballerina soon, and man, I mean, I like Anna de Arms, but action, they're trying to make her an action thing, and I guess we'll see if it's gonna happen. Man, I don't think it's gonna happen. Her having Keanu Reeves' blessing and it being a John Wick spinoff is not a bad look for it, the whole thing, but these days I don't know if that's gonna work. But anyway, back to Mission Impossible. Back to this, the love story, which uh you know, they're face to face. He's like, "What are you doing? You put the fucking virus in you. Now I gotta go find the other thing and save you." She's like, "Sorry, I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to save you." He's like, "Oh man." He's like, "Well, I guess we love each other." Totally irresponsible. And he's like, "What do we do now?" And she's like, "You gotta just kill me." And he's like, "Man, did anybody really think this through?" But yeah, in the midst of all this gunfire, in a couple seconds, Ethan figures it out and he's like, "You know what? I'm not." I like the way he actually does think about it, and he does like the shaking, and he does like the, "I gotta kill her. You gotta kill her." No, I can't kill her. He's like, "I'm just gonna do this," and boom, Plan B is initiated immediately. He's like, "I got this." He's like, "This is that. This is this. Stay alive. I will find you, Last and Mohican style." And then so yeah, and then we got the slow mo, the lady singing Hans Zimmer music. This is the best the Hans Zimmer music gets, or at least one of the parts. Him jumping out, and I guess they couldn't have him jump out a real building, so he jumps out. That's pretty good CGI. That's a little dodgy there, but and apparently for the actual stunt for that, Tom Cruise actually jumps off a real platform and really jumps for quite a long while from pretty high up, um so that he could they could do that jump, like that shot where he's like, you can see him jumping out the building and then kind of just falling until like he kind of is like a little dot or whatever. And for them to do that, he had to like really jump off of something and kind of fall for a long time. And so he really does that. And it's not like quite a bungee jump. He's like on a decelerator. And based this rig where he's like hooked up to this wire that they can control the speed of, pulling him up and down or just dropping him. And yeah, I guess again he does his own, he did his own stunts on that one, and damn near gave poor John Woo a heart attack. Poor guy was stressed out until the DVD commentary. So the movie kind of starts to like kick into gear here. We got, this is probably, I think, safe to say the third act. Yeah, I think it's safe to say this is the third act. Yeah, and this is one of those this is where you could start to see how Robert Town and the writers, or Robert Town and Tom Cruise, had to just basically just write around these action pieces and action beats that they wanted to that they already had implemented in the film. And that's why once we get to this point right here where Ethan has to go and get the get the antidote and the virus to go help Naya and the rest of the world, there's not much else story that takes place. In fact, we almost once we get to the motorcycle chase, there's not much dialogue for almost maybe 15 minutes. So, yeah, there's not much story, not much screenplay really going on. It's just all action, which is why we came here for. Just to see big action movie, Tom Cruise doing his thing. So, yeah, that's unfortunate that, a whole script wasn't actually fleshed out, because you see what you get when you get a whole fleshed out Mission Impossible screenplay. You get stuff like Fallout, or even Rogue Nation. I think Rogue Nation was a good Mission Impossible movie. We got Tom Cruise doing his rock climbing thing again. So I guess it goes without saying, like, Tom Cruise is a big movie star, and Ethan Hunt is his baby. And Ethan Hunt is a pretty, I guess you definitely have to like put him up there, and icons of action heroes now. I don't know if you would put him up there with Bond, but I think he's definitely above Jason Bourne status. There's definitely more movies, and I think definitely people definitely I think mm, just kind of relate more to Ethan Hunt than I think any of the other spy heroes. Um, Ethan Hunt is definitely really more grounded than the other ones. You could tell what his motives are in these movies. They're very grounded. They're Even though he wants to do his duty and he wants to follow orders, he's always kind of doing what's best and what's the right thing to do morally. So there's a lot of in a lot of these movies, he's always basically just going rogue and kind of has to go on his own to prove his innocence, or prove what he's going after is the right thing, or prove that somebody in the IMF is corrupt. So yeah, Ethan Hunt's character, he's a good action hero. He's very just honorable. He's pretty much as like just like very cookie cutter as you can get. Almost Captain America like, just in like what he stands for, he stands for goodness and kind of truth and the underdog and all those kind of things. So like what he stands for is very um I guess what people would call boy scouty. He's your classic um classic action hero, classic hero in stories. Just a good dude. And I'm glad that that's the way they kind of stuck with playing him. They always kind of stayed true to Ethan's character. And Tom Cruise could have tried to go a different route and play it differently, or do something more cold. They definitely tried to do different things in the different Mission Impossible movies. As far as during during the times, they just did sort of what was, I guess, not trendy, but just popular. where if it was like in this one, slow mo and action scenes with gunfights, or if it was, big, huge action set pieces with submarines and him hanging off of tall buildings. What's in, 3D, IMAX, parkour, him running across, jumping across building to building, all that stuff. But it always like stayed true to who Ethan was, which is just like kind of good old boy, kind of just doing the right thing, all shucks kind of guy. That being said, with the movies, how they kind of changed up over the years, they kind of like definitely seem like the first four are very different in look and tone and style. But then from 4 to 8, we get it's just a little bit more uniformed, and everything like kind of looks like it becomes part of like its own. It becomes its own thing. Whereas I think in the beginning, Tom Cruise actually said that he wanted each Mission Impossible movie to be directed by a different director and kind of have it be its own different kind of thing, which I think would have been interesting if that was the case. If we would have gotten like an espionage thriller and then a hardcore action movie and then kind of a gritty thriller, and just or a war movie, in the last one. I think that would have been cool if we like explored the different like action genres um throughout different Mission Impossible movies in a way, or different spy genres in the different Mission Impossible movies. I think that would have been cool. But I think once they found their way, and there was a lot of time between the Mission Impossible movies, so I think in to jump around that way, I think they already were like trying to push, a ball uphill. When between some of these movies, there's a lot of time, and superhero movies are taking over, zombie movies are taking over, zombie shows, Netflix, episodic TV's taking over, and so there's um, a lot of different hurdles that the Mission Impossible movies had to overcome just to stay popular. And some of them weren't always big hits. This one was a big hit though for the time. I think it had a box office of around $500 million, and for at the time that year, I believe it was like the second highest grossing movie of that year. So made good money, decent money. And then back then, again, like we talked about in Gone in 60 Seconds, this movie comes out during the time of the home media market, and it's able to make and generate a little bit more money and find its find a nice bit of scratch that way too. I mean, you see this movie all the time on TV. I mean, you see all of them on TV all the time. And like I said, was this DVD comes out during the time when DVDs really make a big splash and are really affordable and really start to like get in everybody's house, and with just only so many movies on DVD, when this is one of them, and if it's like a cool exciting movie that's fun to watch on DVD on this new medium where the sound is better and the picture quality is better. Watching a movie like this is, a good highlight to your afternoon, and a good movie to have in your library. And so, like I said, these movies, Gone in 60 Seconds, Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible, they make a lot of money in that home media market, and it's a shame that that kind of avenue for the movies to make money is kind of gone. Hopefully, maybe like digital, physical media comes back. It's not going to come back the way it was, but hopefully it comes back a little bit, because right now, I mean, it's a barren wasteland. Locally, the last place that sold DVDs just closed, and it was like sad to go in there every week and just see the collection just dwindle. And it was fun to like go in there and pick out whatever you wanted for like $3, a dollar. But it was also sad to like pick up some movies, some of the titles for like that type of price, and be like, oh man, and if I don't get it, it's gone forever. And yeah, so it's a shame that physical media is going away, but hopefully it makes a comeback, because we see people talking about it a little bit more often lately. So hopefully more people are just aware that that digital stuff doesn't have to stay around. If you it's not going to always be in your cloud. It could always get changed. It could always get taken away. It could always get taken down. So if you really want a thing, or if you're really a fan of a thing, I guess it's important to actually own it, to actually own a physical copy of it. Just like money. Sometimes it's just good to have like physical money on you. Just, you never know. And it's always good to have it on you. And what's that saying? It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So yeah, not that I ever felt like I need Mission Impossible in my life or anything, but I guess it comes in handy right now when you're doing a YouTube commentary, an obscure, random Mission Impossible movie during Mission Impossible fever. Like I said, during this, I'm putting this out during the release of Mission Impossible 8, so a lot of Mission Impossible talk right now. Here we go. More running, doves, Mission Impossible theme. This is where like I think the movie just really goes in the highest gear, and then kind of like we stays there for a while. And yeah, like I said, after this, once Tom Cruise puts on the glasses, we don't hear a lick of dialogue for a long time. The way that guy comes out and shoots, he's just like literally spraying the machine gun like he's a kid at like a birthday party with a water gun. Just not even aiming, just waving the gun around. So yeah, Ethan tells them to back off, go find the girl. I'm gonna go do some slow mo jump and flip for no reason, and still hit the guy. It's good stuff. Again, jumps out of the way, dives, slow mo, shooting. But we're establishing the motorcycles, and this is where we get pretty good, pretty good motorcycle chase. Not just for Mission Impossible movies, but I think just for movies in general. This is actually really good motorcycle chase scene. And even though the beginning kind of really crawls, the scene is kind of worth it a little bit. I mean, maybe if we dropped all those the crazy love at first sight stuff, but yeah, this action beats pretty good. Pretty good conclusion to a mission like this Mission Impossible movie. That's funny. I think it's funny that Luther is like a fashionista. Is that what you call that? He cares about his jacket. Put a hole in my Versace jacket. So yeah, we get a lot of stuff just blowing up. This is kind of cool how as Ethan's going through, the team is kind of helping him out. Luther, Billy. Billy's doing his thing in the helicopter. Luther's blowing things up. They're communicating with each other. It's even though it's just a crazy action scene, there's still a little bit of stuff going on between the team, which I think you need. I mean, it makes you gotta care. You like kind of care when he's doing all this stuff in slow motion. You gotta like care that Luther and the other guy got his back. This is a cool scene right here where he does like an endo and then skids around. And then this is so action right here, action movie where we shoot at the gas tank cover 4 times, and then the car blows up, does a barrel roll, flips over 4 or 5 times, and then our hero rides off. Amazing. And then Ambrose, he's on a motorcycle. And then yeah, here we go. We get a good like I said, this goes on for a good while. This is kind of cool. Yeah, so all this stuff is really really well done. And this is for a time in a way it's going against the grain. Like I said before, um the Mission Impossible movies do tend to try to like keep up with what's trendy, but also they try to do their own thing. And one of the things that they don't do, or they try to do, is they try to stay away from doing like complete CGI. They try to like really do everything in camera or as much as they can in camera. And for back then, this is a time where a lot of stuff was preferred and just done in CGI, done in post, and it's fun to see all these like real stunts, all these real car crashes. And it's fun to see it now because it's really gone now. Like back then it was going away and now it's just gone. So just to watch, even though it's ridiculous to watch him shoot at the gas tank and see the car flip over, you kind of appreciate how a stunt like that is pulled off. It's not easy to flip a car, um, especially when you shoot at the gas tank. But even with what they do to flip these cars over, it's never easy. And yeah, I mean that's like just really cool to see like a real car flip over like that. It's not it's There's weight behind it when you see the real thing rather than like a CG kind of element. There's kind of real awe behind watching him really jump off the motorcycle, and he's skiing on the side of it. You know, he's got his feet on the asphalt. Does he really have his feet on the asphalt? You kind of can tell the tricks, but not really. And that's just good enough because you know that a lot of still what's going on is very dangerous, and there's still a lot of room for error and things can go wrong. You know, right here he takes a gun out and he shoots at the guy behind him. Now that's complete bullshit, but the way it's done and the way they do it, they pull it off so that it's pretty convincing, and you're kind of like, all right, I'll go with it. He misses at least, but he comes pretty close. It's pretty badass of him. You know, he's Ethan Hunt. I forgot he's a super spy. Yeah. And then we got Naya just walking around pretending she's sick. I like how they make her like make her like with the makeup. They make her look sick, and it's just barely like she still looks like Thandie Newton. Yeah, I mean they're really riding the shit out of these motorcycles. I like an action scene that goes from one place to another place to another place. And here we see it where there's a couple beats, and it just makes the action scene kind of play out like a story, like its own like little story, like its own like little mini story, instead of just stuff like happening. Like I said, I mean, there's hasn't even been any dialogue, but there's a clear kind of follow through of what's happening. It's almost like played like a silent film, or at least a dialogueless film, because I guess the sound effects really do help with a chase scene. All the engine sounds and the crashing, that stuff is just gets you going. So the chase scene ends with them just throwing themselves at each other, which is very John Woo, very unique. Um, Never seen that before. Pretty ridiculous, but nonetheless, kind of okay. They're so mad at each other that we're gonna not only play chicken, but we're just gonna literally crash into each other, our bodies, and then we're gonna have a good old dust up in the sand. Which I don't know if anybody's ever fought in the sand before, but it's very hard to have a fist fight in the sand. But I digress. Ooh, there's just rocks around. That's what I mean. Like this fist fight is like so much more just impactful to watch when you know that these guys are fighting each other and things are staged. But the fact that there's like real rocks around, you're kind of like, oh man, like how'd they just do that one little fall there? How'd they do that? How'd they do that? Like this right here, they really did a knife to the eye. Again, Tom Cruise just driving John Woo crazy. Just like, I really want to do it. The one shot actually looked a little CG. Maybe they made it. Maybe they actually did it and maybe added a CG knife in post to make it closer. Because it gets pretty damn close. And I don't know. I mean, it's pretty damn sharp. It's kind of, I don't know how cool that is to have an actual knife that sharp in a scene like that. Even if the actor agreed to it, like It's one of those things where it's still not, I think they would still want a prop just in case something went wrong. It wouldn't like actually cut somebody. Obviously, the stunt is for it to get as close as his eye, and something could go wrong there. But yeah, I don't know. So again, we got a nice fight scene between the two characters. Tom Cruise doing a little doing karate, because like I said, this is after the Matrix, and a lot of people are doing a lot of flippy kicky stuff at the time, which is fine. They don't. It's not overdone in a way that's like unbelievable. Like there, that's kind of more of a wrestling move. There are moments where like he does like this double jump kick to the chest is a little Mortal Kombat-y, but again, it's still like a little bit more messy and rugged the way they're kind of like wrestling and grabbing each other. But then we throw in like a slow mo roundhouse kick that's a little goofy. I wish they kind of just. I wish they didn't slow mo this scene. I think this fight plays out better when it's done just played out in regular speed. like that slow mo shot. That stunt is pretty cool. You see, it's Tom Cruise. He's really doing that spin in the air. He's really landing it perfectly, not on the guy's chin, but unfortunately, you could like really see it. It's impressive, but in that instance, it's a little. I think they went a little too far with the angle, I guess, because you could really tell that it's a swing and a miss. Maybe there was a better shot, and they just liked Tom's form better in that. Maybe Tom just liked his form better in that one. Because it'd probably be really hard to do everything all at once, to do that kick and make it look right and shoot it all right and the lighting be perfect and have all those elements work together all in one shot. So Ambrose plays a real bad guy. He's not sorry for any of his stuff. He just he's single. He's very single-minded, single-purposed, and he plays it well because a lot of times a bad guy like that can be a little wooden and a little cartoony. And even though at times he is a little hammy, I think Dougray Scott plays the plays the villain good in this one. It's definitely a memorable adversary to Ethan. Now you buy that he's a spy like Ethan. And Dougray Scott just has good has good scumbag quality, I guess. And I think that plays well against Tom Cruise's aw shucks demeanor. Yeah, so yeah, she's supposed to be sick here, and they just kind of just throw a little bit of sweat on her and make her eyes look a little tired, and she's supposed to be like dying, but not really. You could tell, like it's so obvious. Like they can't make her look ugly. And the same thing with Tom. He's got like this crazy cut on his face, but it's like perfect. And then we cut to epilogue, aftermath, him talking with Anthony Hopkins, debrief. It's just like a little small scratch, and all the wounds are kind of like nicely placed on his face. They're not like awkwardly jarring looking or all fucked up. It's just like it's a nice little cut here on like a good side of your face that like complements like your cheek. Like whatever. Action movies, you know. So yeah, I mean that's Mission Impossible 2. Like I said, not the best, the ripest apple in the bunch. Some people call it the bad apple in the bunch. I honestly, I don't know. It definitely has some of its moments where this love story, man, this will drive you bananas if you're really looking to see like a hardcore action movie. Like if you're looking if you're living now, and obviously you are, but if you know what you know of Mission Impossible now, and somebody tells you that this is the John Woo action Mission Impossible movie, you'd be like, "Oh shit, this one that sounds pretty cool." And you'd be like, "Yeah, it's got you know Tom Cruise doing his own stunts, great action stuff, great fights, awesome motorcycle chase." You'd be like, "Oh yeah, cool." Ving Rhames comes back. Oh yeah, it sounds all good. And then you watch it and you're just like, "Oh, but why is it this?" But it is this, and it's still pretty. It is what it is. I'm not gonna say it's pretty great, but I tell you what, I played this a lot when this came out. I got a lot of play off of this DVD. I got some play off of this DVD just now, and I hope you get some play off of your Mission Impossible DVD or wherever you watch it. So, thanks for listening to me. Let me know what you want me to do in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now. Thanks.